The moon hung high in the dark sky, casting a silver glow over the enormous Leavitt's mansion. The house stood tall on the outskirts of Long Island, far away from the busy city. It was surrounded by tall iron gates and beautifully kept gardens. The mansion looked like something out of a fairy tale, huge, elegant, and filled with priceless treasures. Most people could only dream of living in a place like this. But for the four thieves hiding in the shadows outside, it was more than just a dream, it was an opportunity. Max, the leader of the group, stood at the front. He had done this kind of job many times before. He was smart and careful, always making sure everything was planned out perfectly. This time he had planned the biggest heist of his life. If they pulled this off, they would be rich forever. "This is it," Max whispered, his sharp eyes scanning the mansion. He had been watching the house for weeks, learning everything about it. He knew when the lights turned off, how the security cameras worked, and where the guards usually stood. Most importantly, he knew that the mansion's owner, Victor Leavitt, was away on a business trip. That meant the house should be empty, or so he thought. Standing behind Max were his three teammates, Maya, Al, and Luke. Each of them had a special role in the job. Maya was quick and sneaky. She was an expert at breaking into places without leaving any signs behind. She always wore gloves and carried a bag filled with tools that could open any lock. Al was the team's tech expert. He was young but very smart when it came to computers and security systems. He knew how to turn off alarms, unlock doors, and make cameras stop recording. He had studied the mansion's security system before, and he was sure he could break in without being noticed. Luke was the muscle. He was big, tall, and strong. His job was to carry all the stolen goods and make sure no one got in their way. He held a heavy crowbar in his hands, ready to use it if needed. Max turned to his team. "We go in fast, grab the stuff, and get out quickly. No mistakes." Al nodded and pulled out a small device from his bag. He started pressing buttons, trying to turn off the security system at the front gate. "Just give me a second," he muttered, his fingers moving fast over the keys. Luke grinned, gripping his crowbar. "Just tell me when to go," he said, his deep voice filled with excitement. Maya looked up at the mansion's windows. "I'll take the back. You guys go through the front," she whispered. She was good at sneaking in first and making sure everything was safe. Max trusted her. "All right, let's move." The team moved like shadows, slipping through the bushes toward the back of the mansion. Max ran through the plan in his head one last time. Everything had to go perfectly. But what they didn't know was that someone was inside the house. Karoline Leavitt, Victor's wife. Unlike her husband, who liked to stay out of sight, Karoline was sharp and clever. She knew everything about the security system because she had designed it herself. She had always expected that someone might try to break in, and she was ready. From her secret security room deep inside the house, she watched the thieves on her computer screens. She could see every move they made. Karoline wasn't scared. In fact, she smiled. "These guys think they're in control," she whispered to herself. "Let's have some fun." Her fingers moved over the control panel. She had a few surprises waiting for them. Outside, the thieves reached the back gate. The night was quiet, too quiet, but they didn't stop to think about it. They had planned this too well to get scared now. Max reached the back door first. "Al, you're up," he said. Al knelt in front of the security panel. The door had a high-tech lock that needed a special fingerprint to open. But Al had hacked into many systems before. He wasn't worried. "Can you do it?" Max asked. Yeah, no problem," Al muttered. His fingers moved quickly over the buttons. Luke shifted impatiently. He never liked waiting. He adjusted the heavy bag on his back, ready to fill it with treasures. "Hurry up, Al," he grumbled. "I don't want to stand here all night." Al ignored him and focused. Finally, the security panel beeped and the lock clicked open. "Got it?" Al said, standing up with a grin. Max nodded. "Let's go." The team stepped inside. The moment they did, a blast of cold air rushed past them. They were inside a long, fancy hallway. The walls were decorated with dark wood, and expensive paintings hung everywhere. But the thieves didn't stop to admire the beauty. They had a job to do. Maya took the lead. She moved silently, her feet barely making a sound. She was always careful, always watching for danger. "Stay quiet," she whispered. "There are motion detectors here. If we walk into them, the alarm will go off." Max nodded. He trusted Maya. She had never let them down before. But what they didn't know was that Karoline was already watching, and she was ready to strike. As the thieves moved deeper into the mansion, Karoline activated the first trap. The floor beneath them suddenly shifted. Luke, the biggest of the group, lost his balance and stumbled. "What the?" he muttered. Then the lights flickered. Al frowned. "Something's not right," he whispered. Before they could react, the doors behind them slammed shut. A loud click echoed through the room. It was locked. Panic flickered in Max's eyes. "Al, get us out of here," he ordered. Al rushed to the security panel on the wall, but the screen was blank. "I don't understand. It's like someone's controlling everything," he said, his voice tense. Meanwhile, Karoline watched them from her screens, chuckling. "Welcome to my house," she whispered. She pressed another button. Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the mansion. The thieves froze. Is someone else here?" Maya whispered, fear creeping into her voice. Then, a deep voice rang out through hidden speakers. "You thought this would be easy?" Luke's hands clenched into fists. "Who said that?" he growled. Max's mind raced. This was bad. Someone had outsmarted them. The security system they thought was disabled had been turned against them. One by one, alarms started blaring. Lights flashed red. Heavy metal doors began sealing off the exits. Karoline leaned back in her chair, watching them scramble. Max turned to his team. "We need to get out. Now." But the mansion wasn't letting them go so easily. Karoline smirked. "Let's see how clever you really are." The thieves had come for riches, but tonight they might not escape at all. And for the first time in his life, Max realized they had made a terrible mistake. Maya, Al, and Luke followed closely, excited to start filling their bags with treasures. Al's small device made a soft buzzing sound as he connected to the mansion's security system again. "All right," Al muttered, his eyes locked on his screen. "The big alarms are off, but there are still some smaller ones we need to turn off before we can take everything." Luke shifted from one foot to the other, impatient. "I don't care about alarms, man. I just want the treasure," he grumbled. Max held up a hand. "Focus, Luke. We need to be careful. No mistakes." He turned to Al. "What do we do next?" Al didn't answer right away. He was too focused, his fingers tapping quickly on his device as he worked through the mansion's security system. The Leavitts had spent a lot of money to keep their home safe, covering every inch with cameras and alarms. But Al knew their system. He had been in this mansion before, and now that knowledge would help them. "Give me a minute to loop the cameras and turn off the silent alarms," Al said, his voice serious. "Once that's done, we can take whatever we want." Max nodded but glanced up at the large staircase leading to the second floor. It was said that Victor Leavitt kept his most valuable things up there, rare jewelry, old watches, and priceless artwork. If they could reach the second floor, they could become rich in just a few hours. Maya, who had gone ahead to check the next room, returned and whispered, "We're good for now. No one is around in the main living area. Are you guys ready?" A small grin spread across Max's face. "Let's go." They moved quickly, working together smoothly like they had done this before. With every step, they got closer to their goal. Maya led them through hallways and staircases, making sure to avoid security beams and cameras. She had already studied the mansion's layout and knew exactly where to step. Ahead, the grand living room stretched out before them. The high ceiling sparkled under crystal chandeliers. Fancy furniture, priceless paintings, and polished marble floors made the room look like something from a fancy magazine. But the thieves didn't care about how beautiful it was. They were here for the treasure hidden behind glass cases and locked doors. "Let's hit the safe first," Max suggested, his sharp eyes scanning the room. "Then we'll take whatever else we can. I'll keep working on the alarms. Maya, keep watch. Luke, start filling the bags." The group moved fast, each person doing their part. But just as they stepped further into the room, a soft chime echoed through the mansion. It was a quiet sound like a little bell, but it didn't belong. They all froze. "What was that?" Luke whispered, gripping his crowbar tightly. Max's eyebrows pulled together. "Stay sharp. Stay quiet." Al's fingers stopped moving on his device. "That shouldn't have happened. The alarms are supposed to be off." Karoline, sitting in her high-tech security room, smiled. The chime had gone off, but the thieves didn't know it was a trick, a trap designed to see how they reacted. As they stood frozen in confusion, Karoline watched, amused. The game was only just beginning. The mansion fell silent again, but the thieves felt uneasy. That little sound had changed everything. Max's gut told him something was wrong. He looked around, scanning the room for any sign of trouble. "I didn't hear anything weird," Maya whispered. But even she sounded unsure. Maya was usually the most observant, the one who noticed the tiniest details. If even she was nervous, something was definitely wrong. Max shook off his unease. "Let's keep going. If something's wrong, we'll deal with it when we need to. Stay focused." He turned to Al. checked the security system again. All still puzzled, got back to work. His fingers moved quickly over the screen. The mansion's security system showed nothing unusual. Everything should have been off. I'm not seeing anything, Al muttered. Everything looks fine. Good. Max tried to sound confident, but deep down he knew something felt off. Things rarely went as planned. Even the smallest mistake could ruin everything. And for the first time in a long time he felt uneasy about this job. Keep moving, he ordered, pushing aside his doubts. We have a job to do. The group continued forward, moving through the grand living room. Behind the glass cases, priceless treasures sat untouched. Ale's eyes lingered on the valuable items, but he stayed focused. He had a job to do, and nothing, not even the shine of riches, would distract him. Luke, on the other hand, was getting impatient. His large hands fidgeted with his crowbar. Let's just hit the safe and get out of here, he grumbled. He didn't care about the little details. He just wanted the big prize. The faster they got what they came for, the sooner they could leave. But just as they reached the hallway leading to the stairs, another sound filled the air. This time it wasn't a chime. It was a low hum, a strange vibrating sound that sent chills down their spines. It wasn't loud, but it was impossible to ignore. Max's stomach tightened. Did you hear that? He whispered, his voice tense. His eyes darted around the room, searching for something, anything, that might explain the noise. Luke, who had been leading the way, stopped dead in his tracks. His face twisted in confusion. What the heck is that? His voice was louder now, a little shaky. Stay quiet, Max snapped, holding up a hand. His heart pounded. This wasn't right. They were supposed to be in and out, quick and silent. But now, every little sound made it feel like the walls were closing in. Ale's fingers flew over his device again, trying to find the source of the strange hum. He checked the system over and over, but nothing made sense. The security should have been down. The camera should have been off. The alarm should have stayed silent. But the humming sound continued, steady and eerie. It made their skin crawl. Al swallowed hard. We're not alone, he finally muttered, his voice shaky. Something is messing with us. But I don't see anything in the system that should be causing this. Max's jaw tightened. He knew one thing for sure. They were being watched. Max's eyes became small as he thought hard. His mind was racing. What do you mean monitored? He asked. Al stopped, unsure of how to explain what he was feeling. He was good with computers, better than most, but even he couldn't understand what was happening. It's like someone is watching us. The system is acting strange, and it's not just a mistake. It's like someone else is in control. Maya, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Max, we need to move. This isn't just a small problem. Something feels wrong. I can't explain it, but this place, it feels like it's alive. Like someone is always ahead of us. Max's face became serious. We keep going, he said firmly. We've come too far to stop now. But be careful. If someone knows we're here, we need to leave fast. As they went deeper into the mansion, it was clear something was wrong. A quiet humming sound had started earlier, but now it was louder. It wasn't a normal sound, it felt planned. Every hum seemed to cause something else to happen somewhere in the mansion. They were walking into a trap, but they didn't know who was setting it. Karoline sat in a security room, smiling as she watched them. She loved seeing them so confused, so nervous. Every step they took was another mistake. They had no idea that every move they made was being watched. She leaned back in her chair, her fingers hovering over the controls. She was ready to take the next step in her plan. The thieves had no idea that they were about to fall right into her trap. The mansion had become a confusing maze. The thieves, once moving together, now found themselves getting separated. Strange forces were pulling them in different directions. The humming sound in the air was getting stronger, like it was moving through the walls, watching them. Max was always good at staying calm, even in the worst situations. But for the first time he felt like he wasn't in control. The mansion, with its tall ceilings, dark corners, and long hallways, was no longer just a house full of riches. It felt like a living thing trying to beat them. Stay together, Max ordered. His voice was low but firm. He had gathered his team again at the bottom of a big staircase leading to the second floor. They had already made it past the living room and kitchen, but every step forward made the strange feeling worse. The quiet hum in the air felt almost like a heartbeat, and they couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching them. But even though Max told them to stick together, something was pulling them apart. Luke, the strongest in the group, was getting angry. His big shoulders moved up and down as he paced. He was getting more upset with every second. Enough of this nonsense. Let's just grab the money and get out of here. I didn't sign up for some creepy game. he shouted. The heavy crowbar in his hand felt nice, but it didn't make him feel any better. Max gave Luke a hard look. We stick to the plan, Luke. We need to stay focused. We don't know what's going on, but panicking is what they want. Panicking? Luke laughed. I'm not panicking, I'm being smart. Something is really wrong with this place. Maya, who had been too quiet before, now looked up at the stairs. Her eyes were serious. Max is right. Something weird is happening here, and it's not just the computers acting up. Someone knows we're here. We're already at a disadvantage, and we haven't even reached the second floor yet. She pointed to the stairs. The sooner we finish and leave, the better. We're not alone here. Max looked at her, his face unreadable. But he knew Maya had a sharp mind. She could sense danger before anyone else. He had to trust her. All right, he said. We're splitting up. Maya, you go with Luke and head for the safe. Al, you and I will check the second floor. Are you sure? Al asked. He looked worried. The humming sound was getting worse, and he was still trying to fix the security systems. Something isn't right. I don't know if we should split up. Max cut him off. We have no choice. I won't take risks. We get in, get the money, and get out. Splitting up will be faster. His voice was strong. No one argued. Maya and Luke disappeared into the lower part of the mansion, heading for the place where Victor Leavitt's treasures were stored. Expensive wines, rare jewels, and a huge safe full of cash and gold were waiting for them. Max and Al took the stairs, heading up to the second floor where more valuable things were kept. For a moment, everything was silent. Maya and Luke walked down a long hallway filled with beautiful paintings, antique furniture, and expensive statues. The air felt heavy. The floor creaked under their feet. Maya whispered, "You feel it too, right?" Luke didn't answer right away. He kept his eyes forward, but he couldn't ignore the strange feeling in his gut. "Yeah," he muttered. "Something's wrong. It's like we're walking into a trap." Maya didn't argue. She had the same feeling. It was like someone was moving them around like pieces in a game. The thought made her uneasy, but she pushed it away. There was money to be made, and she wasn't going to let anything stop her. Meanwhile, Max and Al climbed to the second floor. The air felt heavier. The mansion was grand, but it felt like it was trying to swallow them. Al was still trying to fix the system. "Something's wrong," he muttered. "I can't figure it out. Every time I try to fix the cameras, they just reset. Someone is controlling them." Max narrowed his eyes. His hand rested on his gun, but he didn't pull it out yet. He was usually the one in charge, but tonight something felt different. It felt like they were being hunted. "Keep working on it, Al," Max said. "We can't afford any mistakes." Al didn't answer. His fingers moved quickly on his device, trying to fix the system. They reached a hallway darker than the rest. The air was cold. The second floor was too quiet, like no one had lived there for years. The silence was creepy, but Max refused to let it stop him. Then suddenly they heard a noise. They weren't alone. As Max and Al walked down the hallway, Max said, "There's no way Leavitt isn't here. This place is too clean and looked after for him to just leave it alone. I don't believe the story that he's away on business." Al, who was busy looking at his device, mumbled, "Maybe he's hiding, trying to make us think no one is here. I don't know what he's up to, but I don't like it." Max stopped and said, "Well, whatever he's planning, we need to put an end to it. We've come too far to turn back now." Suddenly Al's device beeped loudly, making both men jump. The signal had gotten stronger, more stable, as if leading them deeper into the mansion. But it wasn't just a simple signal. It felt like the mansion itself was responding to their presence. Before either of them could say anything, the door at the end of the hall slowly opened with a loud creak. Both men froze, staring at the dark room beyond. It felt like the mansion was inviting them in. "Did you see that?" Max whispered, even though it wasn't really a question. His body tensed as if ready to fight. Al slowly nodded, his face pale. Something, or someone, was waiting for them inside. It was no longer just the house dividing them. Every hallway, every room, seemed to be pushing them further apart while danger closed in around them. Far away in a hidden security room, a woman named Karoline chuckled quietly. Everything was going exactly as she had planned. The thieves were getting scared, confused, and separated. Now it was time for her to set the final part of her trap. The mansion no longer felt just like a building. It felt like a living thing watching them, controlling them. The once quiet air now felt heavy, like an invisible hand pressing down on them. Max's heart pounded. He had been in tough situations before, but this was different. The mansion was toying with them. The soft hum of the machines had changed. It now sounded more like a deep growl, like a predator waiting for the right time to attack. Max's hand moved to his gun, even though he knew it wouldn't help against whatever was happening. "Al," he whispered urgently, "what's going on with the security system? It's like this place is messing with us." Al, still focused on his device, looked up. His face was tight with worry. I don't know," he said, his voice shaky. "The cameras keep glitching. The alarms keep changing sounds. It's like someone is actively controlling everything we do." Max clenched his jaw. "Someone is messing with us for sure. They're watching us." As they cautiously moved forward, they reached a large wooden door covered in fancy carvings. Max hesitated, then pushed it open. Inside they found a huge room, a library or maybe an office. Shelves lined with expensive books stood against the walls, and fancy furniture filled the space. But Max wasn't looking at the furniture. His eyes locked onto a black monitor at the far end of the room. It glowed eerily in the dim light. Al stared at the screen and whispered, This wasn't here before." On the screen, a single word appeared in big, bold red letters, "Welcome." Max reached for his gun, but something in his gut told him to wait. Just as he was about to take a step forward, the screen changed. Now it showed the mansion's security cameras, each one displaying a different part of the house. The living room, the kitchen, the stairs. And then something even more unsettling happened. The cameras zoomed in, showing Max and Al walking into the room. Someone was watching them live, controlling the cameras. Al's voice was barely a whisper. "They're watching us." Max tightened his grip on his gun. "Yeah, no kidding. We're trapped." Meanwhile, in another part of the mansion, Luke and Maya continued walking toward the vault. Luke, growing impatient, grumbled, "Max's plan is terrible. If we don't find what we came for soon, we're all gonna get caught in this creepy house." Maya, usually talkative, was quiet. She felt the same danger Luke did, but she knew better than to let fear take over. She had seen things go wrong before, and in situations like this, panicking was the worst thing you could do. "Stay focused," Maya said firmly. "We've come this far. We stick to the plan." But even as she said it, she knew things were getting worse. The mansion was like a trap closing in on them. Every turn, every hallway felt like it was pushing them toward something bad. They reached a long hallway leading to the vault. As they stepped forward, a loud, sharp click echoed through the air. Then the heavy door to the vault slid open, on its own. Maya froze. Her heart pounded. "Did you hear that?" Luke asked, his voice tense. Maya nodded, eyes wide. "We didn't open it. Someone else did." A soft chime sounded somewhere in the mansion, followed by a low hum of machinery. The noise filled the room, making the air feel heavy. "Someone else is here," Maya whispered. Every instinct in her body told her they were not alone anymore. Luke's grip on his crowbar tightened. "You think this is a trap?" Maya swallowed hard. "I don't know, but I don't like it." They slowly moved toward the vault. The lights above them flickered, casting strange shadows on the walls. Every step they took echoed through the hallway. The safe door, once locked, now stood wide open as if inviting them inside. And yet they didn't move. They both knew stepping forward could be a mistake they couldn't take back. Back on the second floor, Max and Al reached another large door. The air around them had become colder, sending chills down their spines. The quiet hum of the machines grew louder. Al shivered. "Something is wrong. This place, it's not just a mansion. It's a trap." Max nodded. He could feel it too. Everything had been leading up to this moment. He grabbed the door handle, but just as he touched it, the lights in the room flickered on, revealing a giant control panel. Dozens of screens covered the walls. Each screen showed different parts of the mansion. Maya and Luke in the hallway. The vault. Al and Max standing right where they were. And then, on one of the screens, bold words flashed in red letters. "I see you." Max's stomach dropped. He finally understood. They were not in control. They were not the ones running this game. Someone else was. And the game had just turned deadly. In her security room, Karoline smiled. She had led them exactly where she wanted. Now it was time to play her final move. She placed her fingers on the keyboard, ready to strike. The final moment had come. The big ending was here. Inside the huge mansion, the air felt heavy. Every room, every hallway seemed to be moving like they had a mind of their own. The thieves, who once felt so smart and brave, now looked at each other with fear. They knew they were no longer in charge. This wasn't just a simple robbery anymore. The mansion had turned into a strange game, and someone else was making the rules as they went along. The deeper they went, the more they understood that they had walked into a well-planned trap. It was meant to test them, to push them to their limits. Max had just found the control room. His eyes grew wide as he saw hundreds of screens flashing. Every screen showed different parts of the mansion, the rooms, the halls. But the scariest part? The cameras had been watching them the whole time. Every step they took, every move they made had been recorded. "Whoever is behind this," Al said, his voice shaking, "they know everything about us." His fingers hovered over his device. He tried hacking into the mansion system, but nothing worked. It was as if the mansion itself was alive, stopping him from breaking in. Every attempt he made was met with weird errors, as if someone was laughing at him from the other side of the screen. Max's face grew serious. "They've been watching us since we stepped inside," he muttered. For the first time in his life, he felt something he wasn't used to: fear. He had always been confident, always in control. But not this time. This time they were the ones being played. "We need to get out of here," Al whispered, his hands moving quickly, still trying to override the system. But nothing worked. He felt useless. From the moment they had stepped into the mansion, they had been walking into a trap. Karoline Leavitt, the mansion's owner, had been ahead of them at every turn. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about control. She was controlling everything. Max clenched his jaw. "We can't leave empty-handed. Not after everything we've done." But even as he said it, deep inside he knew they were in serious trouble. They had underestimated Karoline. Now they were paying the price for it. Meanwhile, downstairs, Luke and Maya had made it to the vault. But something wasn't right. The vault door was already open. The giant, heavy door stood wide open as if inviting them inside. But no one had opened it. Not them. Not anyone. Maya looked at Luke, her face tight with worry. "This doesn't feel right," she said. "We were supposed to be in charge. But now, it feels like someone else is pulling the strings." Luke grunted, his eyes scanning the vault. Inside there were stacks of gold, shiny jewels, and bags of cash. It was everything they had ever wanted. The kind of treasure that would change their lives forever. But now none of it seemed to matter. The air felt heavy. The walls seemed to close in on them. It was like the mansion itself was watching them. "Something's wrong," Luke muttered. "I swear I can feel someone staring at us." Maya nodded, fear creeping into her voice. "We need to go, Luke. We're not alone." Before Luke could respond, a loud crack sounded behind them. They spun around, their bodies tense, expecting an attack. But what they saw was worse than they had imagined. The vault door, which had been wide open, was now slowly closing on its own. The heavy steel door slid shut with a deep, echoing boom. "Not again," Luke muttered, panic rising in his voice. "What is happening?" Maya grabbed his arm. "Move. Now." They ran as fast as they could, but before they reached the door, it slammed shut with terrifying force. The room went dark. A loud, final click echoed in the air. They were locked in. Maya's heart pounded. The walls felt like they were closing in. She could hear Luke breathing heavily next to her. But she couldn't let fear take over. They had to escape, and they had to do it now. Back on the second floor, Max and Al were also feeling trapped. The security system was no longer under their control. Every hallway stretched endlessly before them, twisting and turning like a maze. "Al," Max said, frustration in his voice, "we need to find the way out." "No. This place is playing with us." Al swallowed hard. "I'm trying, Max. But the system is rigged. We can't go back the way we came. All the exits are locked." Max clenched his fists. "There has to be a way. We can't just stay here. We need to finish the job and get out." Al's face was pale. He had never seen security like this before. It was too advanced. Karoline had planned this too well. She had expected them. She had been waiting for them. "Max, look at this," Al said urgently. "The security logs. Someone has been watching us in real time. They knew we were coming. They planned for this. They are always ahead of us." Max's eyes darkened. "We need to find her. Now." Al hesitated. "It's too late, Max. She's already won." The weight of Al's words hit Max hard. He had never thought they could lose like this. They had been tricked from the start. Now they were trapped in a game they had never even understood. Suddenly, the mansion's lights flickered. And then, for a second, everything went completely dark. The soft hum that had filled the mansion since they arrived stopped. Silence filled the air. It was thick, heavy, and suffocating. Then, through the darkness, a soft voice whispered, cold and distant like a ghost. "Game over." It was Karoline. They had lost. There was no way back now. The words echoed through the mansion. Max, Al, Maya, and Luke all stood frozen, their hearts pounding. They had thought they were in charge. They had thought they were the ones making the decisions. But now, in the darkness with nowhere to run, they realized the truth. Karoline had been playing them all along. Max didn't answer right away. His mind was spinning, trying to put together the last moments of their big robbery. How did they miss the clues? The strange chime that made them lose focus, the security system acting weird at just the wrong time, it was all too perfect. Karoline hadn't just tricked them, she had planned everything. She knew exactly what they would do and led them right into her trap. Max turned to Al. "Can you hack us out of here?" he asked, his voice full of frustration and exhaustion. He didn't want to admit it, but he was running out of ideas. They were trapped and he knew it. Al looked up at Max, his face pale and worried. I don't think I can," he said, shaking his head. "Everything is locked down. Whoever is controlling this house has full power over the system. It's not just hacking anymore. We're stuck. They have us right where they want us." Max's jaw tightened and his heart pounded. "So what do we do now?" he asked. His voice was sharp, but it wasn't just anger, it was fear. Fear of what was coming next. They had failed and now they had to face the truth. The room was silent as everyone thought about their situation. The treasure they had come for, the riches they had dreamed of, now felt impossible to reach. It wasn't just the money slipping away, it was their freedom. They were trapped in a house that had turned into a maze with no way out. Maya crossed her arms, her eyes serious but filled with doubt. "We made a lot of mistakes," she said quietly, "and now we're paying for them. We should have listened to the signs. We should have known something was wrong." Luke, still angry, slammed his fist against a table. A fancy vase fell and shattered on the floor. "It's too late for that now," he growled. "What matters is what we do next. How do we get out of here? We can't just wait to be caught." Max didn't answer right away. He stared at the floor, thinking hard. Deep down, he knew there was no easy way out. They had underestimated Karoline. What seemed like an easy job had turned into a disaster, and now they were paying for their arrogance. "Maybe we don't get out," Max finally said in a low, heavy voice. "Maybe we've already lost." The words hit the group like a heavy weight. Max had never been one to give up, but this time there was nothing they could do. They were surrounded. No amount of strength or cleverness could fix this. Karoline had already won. Maya sighed, but she didn't argue. She knew Max was right. They had been outplayed. This house wasn't a prize anymore, it was a trap and they were stuck inside. Luke clenched his fists. "I'm not giving up," he shouted. "I don't care how much she planned this. We didn't come this far just to lose." Max looked at him, his face serious. For a moment there was only silence. Then Max let out a slow breath. "Fine," he said, steady but tired. "But know this, we're not in control anymore. And whatever happens next, it's on us." The weight of his words settled over the group. They had made their last move and it wasn't a winning one. The heist had failed and now they were at Karoline's mercy. The house was no longer just a home, it was a weapon. But even as defeat surrounded them, something inside them refused to give up. A small flicker of defiance remained. They weren't going down without a fight. Meanwhile, in a high-tech security room, Karoline watched them closely. Her fingers hovered over the controls, ready to end the game. She had beaten them at every turn. Now the final move was hers to make. The thieves had been led into her trap and soon, they would understand that the mansion wasn't just her home, it was their doom. She pressed a button and whispered, "Game over." The silence that followed was heavy. The house, which had once felt so big and full of opportunity, now felt small and suffocating. The walls seemed to close in on the four criminals who had dared to break in. Max stood still in the dark room, staring at the blank monitors. His mind, once sharp and always ready, now felt slow, clouded with regret. They had been so close, but they had underestimated Karoline. She had planned for everything and now they were trapped. Max had never felt like this before and he hated it. Behind him, Al kept messing with his device, trying one last time to break into the system. But deep down he knew it was useless. The house was locked up tight. No doors would open. Their phones had no signal. They were completely cut off, powerless to stop what was coming next. Al swallowed hard. "I don't understand. This wasn't supposed to happen. We planned everything. We knew this place would be empty. We checked." His voice trailed off, his face full of disbelief. "How did we miss this?" Max shook his head. "Because we were greedy, Al. We thought we were smarter than her. But we weren't." Luke, standing in the corner, spoke up, his voice filled with frustration. "So what? We're just going to sit here and wait to be caught? There has to be a way out." He gripped his crowbar tightly, though his confidence was fading. "I didn't come this far to be some rich lady's prisoner." Maya, who had been quiet, finally spoke. We should have trusted our instincts, she said. None of this felt right from the start. But we ignored it. We thought we couldn't lose. Luke turned to her, his anger growing. Don't say that. We're not done yet. We get out or we die trying. I won't go down like this. Max faced him, his eyes tired but firm. We're not getting out, Luke. Not like this. Karoline has every door locked. Every security system is working against us. If we leave, it'll be because she lets us. Luke glared at him. You're giving up? He hesitated when he saw the look in Max's eyes. There was no more fight left, only acceptance. Max sighed, feeling the weight of their failure. Sometimes you're not in control of the game, Luke. Sometimes you're just a pawn. The words hung in the air, making the room feel even colder. They had been tricked at every turn, and now, there was no escape from the consequences of their choices. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. The group froze, their bodies tense. They turned toward the noise, their minds racing. Was Karoline finally coming to face them? The footsteps grew louder, and a shadow appeared in the doorway. But it wasn't Karoline. It was a group of police officers. The criminals stood frozen as the officers moved in, their faces stern. Behind them, Karoline stepped into the room, calm and in control. There was a small, satisfied look in her eyes. Max locked eyes with her, feeling his stomach drop. They had lost. The officers moved quickly, handcuffing them and leading them out. They had thought they would leave with riches. Instead, they were leaving in cuffs, filled with regret and shame. As they were led outside, Karoline spoke, her voice smooth and sharp. You underestimated me, she said. You thought you could steal from me without consequences. But this is my house. And tonight you were the intruders. Max said nothing. He couldn't. She had won. She had outsmarted them completely. As the police car drove away, Al whispered, I never thought it would end like this. Luke, still furious, punched the seat. We were idiots, he growled. She played us and now we're paying the price. Maya didn't speak. She just stared ahead, knowing the truth. They had lost and there was no way to undo it. Karoline watched them disappear, a small smile on her lips. The game had always been hers to win. If you enjoyed this story, share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories filled with adventure, mystery, and excitement. Your support means the world and it helps keep these stories coming. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.